I got a letter from my insurance carrier back in June actually telling us that our policies were going to be canceled effective January 1st of 2014.
Millions of Americans that are uncertain about their health insurance as it's been canceled, as ours has.
So uncertain. That's probably the biggest problem, is we don't know what tomorrow will bring.
But our out-of-pocket is going to go from $5,000 to $8,400 a year.
I'm just going to let it be. I think I'm going to let it go and hope I can stay healthy.
I'm very healthy and young, and I should be paying the lower part, the $100 a month I'm paying now, not $300 a month, and somebody who's in terrible health in their 50s pay less than me. That's ridiculous.
Senator Nelson's kind of tired of me complaining.
It's definitely more than my fair share for the health insurance.
I think I'm just going to pay the fine because I can't afford it and I don't want to beg to the government.
I would like to scrap it and start all over.
Should we scrap Obamacare and start all over? Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle in for Greta Van Susteren. Growing uncertainty and fear as a big Obamacare deadline approaches. Dr. Ben Carson is here to go on the record. Good evening, doctor. So what can doctors and patients do to protect themselves?
Well, you know, this is a pretty difficult situation. You know, people are obviously fearful because there was willful misrepresentation. You know, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your insurance, and it's rolling out. People are saying that that is not the case. People are saying that if you can't make a website work after 3 years, how in the world are you going to deal with millions of health records and keep anything straight? I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that that's just not going to happen. And the bill is so complex, we keep finding more and more things in it that, you know, somebody obviously didn't know about. And if we really want to solve it, it's going to take more than just doctors and patients. It's going to take a willingness to be honest. And I know that may be a difficult thing in Washington, D.C., but the fact of the matter is, we just need to recognize that this bill was passed because the facts were not on the table. So if deceit is used to get a bill passed, is it really even legitimate? And if we want to be honest, let's sit down and let's put all the facts on the table and then re-vote and see if it happens. Or alternatively, and preferably, let's just sit down as a bipartisan group and work it out. We can do that.
Well, Dr.
That's
Carson,
the American way.
Yeah, of course. That's what should have been done to begin with, to avoid some of these inaccuracies and the American people being misled. But now the president and his administration and those that he has put the American people's trust, health, and faith in the hands of have let us down. But should we trust them to take this to the next step when so far all we've gotten is a failure to launch?
Well, there isn't anything to indicate that there's any change of heart. When there's a change of heart, when some humility, when some concern for the masses rather than concern for your poll numbers comes into play, yes, I'd be happy to give another chance. But let's do it the right way. We have to remember that there's another big problem, and that is that we have just turned over a huge chunk of power, and I mean we the people, to the government with control over our lives. We have to understand that there are severe implications to that, and this is only the beginning. We need to heed these warning signs, all of us, and do the appropriate thing when it comes to voting.
So, Doctor, talk to me a little bit about what is most at risk here for doctors who are trying to serve faithfully, the patients that trust their lives, their medical decisions, you know, and for the patients on the other side, because there's a strong impact for both.
Sure. You know, I talk to lots of doctors every week all over the country, and they're extremely concerned about not only their autonomy, but about the relationships that they've established over many years. Many of those they have to give up now because, you know, people are no longer in their network, and their lives are being controlled. People who go into medicine are very smart people, and they didn't go into something to be automatons for some bureaucrat to tell them what they could and could not do. So you're going to see a lot of people quitting. You're going to see, you know, more and more concierge practices. Of course, the government will eventually try to come in and say, you must see these patients as a condition of your license. That's going to cause a big revolt as well. You know, this is what happens when the government gets too powerful, gets too big. It doesn't know what to do. It wants to mess with everything. This was never the original intent. And I begged the Congress and the Supreme Court to wake up and realize that there was a reason that you're there.
Well, that's a call to action, really, to serve the American people who have, as you've said, put so much trust and faith in these individuals to do right by them and by their families. But we're seeing the impact across the board affecting Americans from all walks of life, whether this was well-intentioned or not. When people seek your counsel and they say to you, you know, Dr. Carson, what can I do to protect myself as a patient? What do you tell them?
First of all, I tell them to pray. But secondly, I say, you know, look out there. There are some things that are being presented by the private sector which do work. There are a lot of alternatives. People aren't willing to sit down and discuss them, talk about them openly, but the fact of the matter is there's a zillion alternatives. And, you know, we need to insist that those things be looked at because they can take care of the problem in a much cheaper fashion without turning over the most important thing you have, your health care, to the government. Government has a lot of important things to do. This is not one of them.
You know, Doctor, you came on to the national stage, and in fact international. People became aware of your voice and what you had to say that's resonated with the American people. You're a man of faith. You're a man of science and medicine as well. I ask you, there's some new developments now with the Supreme Court agreeing to hear the case regarding contraception and the role and right of corporations to be treated as individuals if they don't want to provide for contraceptive care, morning after pills like that. What is your thoughts about that?
Well, I say this is just a harbinger of the many things that are going to come up when you take the government and put them in a position where they start dictating to us about the affairs of our private lives. It's going to be, you know, contraceptives today. It's going to be something else tomorrow and something else the next day. Government, please start thinking about the important things that you need to do. I'm not saying that the government isn't important, but they don't need to be in the private aspects of our lives. These kinds of things will just continue to crop up as long as they are, because you're taking an independent and free society, and now you're trying to impose huge governmental controls on it. It doesn't work. It's like mixing oil and water. It's going to be a continued chaos.
You're absolutely right. Those two were never meant to be together. Well, Dr. Carson, we're happy that you spent time with us this evening. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Kimberly.
Okay.